Why did he do it last week? So you shaved it?
No.
See, my legs are like fawn legs, but then up here I'm bald.
You ever hear that story about from the 1850s, some village in England had giant goat hoof tracks appear going through their village after a fresh snow, and it went throughout the whole village, and they were huge, bigger than a goat, and they went up walls, on roofs, down houses. There were no other tracks with them, and everyone thought it was the devil.
I mean, I probably would too.
Yeah, it was weird, and they never solved it.
It was probably
was it?
very clever prank, honestly.
Or it was the Krampus.
Yep, definitely the Krampus.
There were a lot of bad kids in that.
Someone really good on stilts with, but no way. I mean, it was going up and down buildings, sides of buildings, and everything too. It was crazy.
Four-legged stilts. Yeah.
Someone in a helicopter with someone hanging from
I know.
They're
big
two
shoes.
people.
Yeah, there was some weird stuff that's really hard to explain.
Well, I mean, like, you know, sometimes there's mythical creatures that are obviously don't exist, and there's
Never
creatures that could feasibly exist, right? And sometimes it's like just on the border, and it's like, okay, let's assume for the moment this one that feasibly can exist, right? This still wouldn't work.
It's also one of the reasons why I'm recording it as well, so that way.
Hello, Facebook friends. Happy birthday to Jason Long.
Happy birthday.
And some of my, or my other relatives that had birthdays too. Scott and Roger and Grace. Yeah, Grace Williver. So happy birthday to all of you if you're watching or watching later. We're in Isaiah chapter 24. Isaiah 24. I'm reading from the New King James Version. I'll read the pericope or title. Isaiah's Little Apocalypse is chapters Isaiah 24 to 27. Desolate Israel after Babylonian invasion pictures distress in the tribulation. Isaiah verse 1. Everyone there?
Yeah.
Behold, Yahweh makes the earth empty and makes it waste, distorts its surface and scatters abroad.
Yeah, make it desolate and he will twist its surface.
Twist. You read the whole thing for me, please. Real loud.
Oh, sure. Look, the Lord is stripping the earth bare and making it desolate. He will twist its surface and scatter its inhabitants.
All right. Anyway, that was HCSB. In New King James, it says distorts its surface. Probably the same in Old King James. But for distorts, the Hebrew word is turns it upside down. So it's like plowing. You know how a plow is designed. Those old-fashioned ones, you know, that you walk behind with this huge triangular swooping blade, and as it's pulled by a donkey through the soil, it flips up that hard soil and turns it upside down. It's constantly flipping it upside down. So that's what God's going to do to the earth. He's going to turn it upside down. There's going to be a great shaking, a great huge earthquakes, but I'm wondering if it could possibly even refer to a flipping of the earth on its axis or a changing of the axis, which apparently has happened in the past. It may have happened around the time of the flood or when the calendars changed from 360 days to 365 day years, which could have had something to do with Venus or Mars. You're welcome to look up all the theories. So, but I saw a secular program on, I think it was PBS. They were talking about how the magnetic poles are like, they're not all at one end. They're kind of fluctuating and shifting. And if it flips, they say it would cause a worldwide flood. And I'm thinking, maybe that happened already. It flipped, and that may have been one of the ways God caused the worldwide flood, in addition to huge earthquakes and asteroids and all kinds of stuff. Verse 2, and it shall be as with the people, so with the priest. As with, okay, wait a second, I have to go back a little. On the, behold, the Lord makes the earth empty. Now, what did we say about earth? The translation of earth. Anyone
can
have?
also be land.
Yeah, it could also be translated land. It's haaretz. Haaretz, which is like Haaretz Israel means the land of Israel in Hebrew. So whether it's earth or land depends on the context, and I believe verses 1 to 3 are talking about the land of Israel, and I'll show you why in a minute. And then in verse 4 it expands out to the whole world, but it starts with Israel, you know, like that principle. Judgment begins in the house of the Lord. Yes, in the like Israel's temple. Verse 2, and it shall be as with the people, so with the priest. See, priest is an indicator of
Authority or status.
yes, but I'm thinking of it should make you think of Israel, the temple, Jerusalem, Israel, right?
So specifically about
Than the earth in this context. As with, and the people, I mean, have we seen over and over are called the people.
Israelites,
Yeah, the Israelites. And when it says the peoples, who would that be?
the heathens.
Yeah, the Gentiles.
The
Exactly. And we've seen them, it actually defines it in some verses. It'll, you know, when it says the same thing twice, the synonymous parallelism, it'll say peoples, and then the next line it'll say the Gentiles, and it's saying the same sentence twice, or the same idea. And it shall be as with the people of Israel, so with the priest of Israel. Actually, it's the priest singular, so that might be the high priest. As with the servant, so with his master. So that's the males. And then as the maid, so with her mistress. There's the females. And there's the high status and the low status, right?
And here's a place where gender is specified, actually.
Right. As with the buyer, I mean, the Bible knows how to specify gender. You don't need to get one of those Bibles. All right, we're picking up in, sorry if you got disconnected, Isaiah 24:2, the middle of that. As with the buyer, so with the seller. As with the lender, so with the borrower. As with the creditor, so with the debtor. So in the tribulation time of worldwide judgment, when is that? Past, present, future. Future, and how long? 7 years. Yeah, it's Daniel's 70th week. It's a week of 7 years. And in that time, will your status or wealth or rank matter?
It won't help you.
No, it won't help you at all. They're all going to be affected. They're all going to be suffering the same things, including, these distorting the earth's surface. What was it going to cause in verse 1?
Earthquakes.
Yeah, earthquakes, but what does that cause for the people, or to the people?
Scattered the inhabitants.
Yeah, the inhabitants of the land will be scattered abroad. They'll have to flee for your lives. Fly, as Gandalf would say. Verse 3, the land shall be entirely emptied and utterly plundered. So what land would that be? The land.
The land of Israel.
Yeah, the land of Israel, one particular land, emptied and plundered. For Yahweh has spoken this word. So, sure or unsure. Now we saw in, well, based on my pericope, it gave a little hint of the dual, what's the law of, what's it called? The law of dual fulfillment, or the dual fulfillment of prophecy. What are the dual fulfillments here?
So is this also speaking to the first captivity of Israel by Babylon?
Right, yeah, that's what the Study Bible subtitle indicates, that it's, remember the pericope said, Isaiah's little apocalypse, Isaiah 24 to 27, desolate Palestine, no, not Palestine, Israel, after Babylonian invasion, pictures distress in the tribulation. So the two fulfillments are the Babylonian captivity, they're taken out of the land and scattered, and it's shaken by an army. But the bigger and greater fulfillment, that's the near fulfillment. The far fulfillment is in the future tribulation after the rapture. After our rapture, we're taken out of here, and then God's going to judge the whole earth. Well, actually, sorry, we're on the topic of Israel still. Right now, I got to quit jumping ahead. Verse 3, the land shall be entirely emptied and utterly plundered. So what's plundering a result of?
Like
War, yes, warfare. Sometimes the soldiers don't even get paid very much. They just say, okay, when we enter the land, your plunder's your pay. You know, whatever you can steal from the houses, it's yours. So the land of Israel shall be utterly emptied and plundered, for Yahweh has spoken this. So why in the tribulation would that happen? Why? I thought Israel was we've seen many prophecies about Israel being regathered in the last days, and it's happening right now. Israel became a nation in what year?
1948.
1948, got Jerusalem back as their capital. What year?
2017.
Say it again.
2017.
No, July 1967.
Oh.
1967, she got Jerusalem back and the temple, and then proceeded to give it right back to the Jordanians. Oh, it was liberated for that long. They had no right to do that once God gave them the Temple Mount. So why would it be emptied when it's being filled right now? God is regathering the Jews from all over the world and fulfilling prophecy. Why would, in the tribulation period, it be emptied and then being scattered abroad to other nations? Because what happens in the middle of the tribulation?
Antichrist breaks his covenant with Israel.
Right. Antichrist breaks his covenant with Israel. There's the abomination of desolation. He sets himself up in the temple, which has to be rebuilt, of Jerusalem to be worshipped as God, declares himself to be God, speaks blasphemous things, breaks his covenant with Israel that guaranteed them peace and security. And instead, what does he do? He says, this is my temple, my city, my land, and he makes war on the saints, on the Jewish believers, and starts hunting them down. So if you're being hunted down, what do you have to do?
Okay.
Yes, flee for your lives. So they're scattered abroad from the land, because Antichrist is chasing them in the second half of the tribulation. I think one of the places they flee to is the rock city of Petra. The Bible sometimes calls it the sheep pens of Bozrah. Verse 4, the earth mourns and fades away. The world languishes and fades away. The haughty people of the earth languish. What does languish mean?
Like die.
Dying? Yeah, that's pretty close. It could be. Could be fun.
Consistently in pain.
Dying could be fun. It's from the what movie is it from?
What die?
Charlotte's Web. Yeah, that's where I learned the word
I learned
languishing.
it too.
Wilbur, I'm languishing. What's languishing, Charlotte?
That's our little
It's a general weakening. So the world is weakening. Notice we've jumped from the land to what?
The world.
The world. Okay, now we've broadened out. God starts his judgment with the land of Israel. Now he's broadening out to the whole world. The earth mourns and fades away. The world languishes or weakens and fades. And what does fades mean?
Mine says wastes and withers.
Withers, yes, wilts away. The Hebrew word means wilts. That says fades or withers. Wilts away. You know, it's like a dying plant. And we know this. The environmentalists think they're trying to save the world, although they're doing more destruction than the conservatives are actually the ones that are doing more to take care of the earth, like the good farmers and such. But we know the earth is perishing. It's withering. It's fading. What do you call that? Wearing out like a garment. You know, like old clothes, right?
Worn
There's
out.
what?
It's all worn out.
Yeah, it's all worn out. There's a limited number of resources, and the deserts are growing and the forests are shrinking, and it's been that way since the flood. I mean, the flood, after the flood, it was like, as far as I understand it, there was an ice age, and then it was mostly tropical forests, and then like the desert started expanding, so there was, and some of that's from warfare and stuff. Once war ravages the land, you know, all the trees are torn down to be used or burned or whatever, and then it
And unless
turns
somebody goes
desert.
to a lot of work to replant plants and water them in that area, it tends to stay desert.
Right, it changes weather patterns. I've seen, just like if you bought land around here and you made a little dirt road going up a hill, you know what? You've just done hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage to your land, and it would take generations to repair it, because that's the worst thing you can do, because it creates instant erosion. You're supposed to kind of, you know, go at angles with the road, not go straight up a hill, because it creates this huge erosion ditch. Anyway, back to our verse 4, Isaiah 24:4. The haughty people of the earth languish. So who are the haughty people?
The crowd.
Yeah, the proud people, the rich people, the important people, or at least self-important people. Verse 5, the earth is also defiled under its inhabitants, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore, therefore the curse has devoured the earth, and those who dwell in it are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men are left.
Is that talking about Israel, that word for earth, the land, or is it talking more broadly?
Well, since it said world in the previous verse too, I think we're talking the whole earth. Unless there's some indication that we've gone back to talking about Israel, like priest, the land, the people, that type of. So I mean, you're welcome to look at the Hebrew. It probably is the word that could be translated either land or earth.
Well, I was just thinking here, is this, for they have transgressed teaching and overstepped decrees and broken the everlasting covenant.
Okay, so you're thinking since the law was only given to Israel, that this is talking about land instead of earth, the land of Israel instead of.
Yeah, therefore a
the
curse
earth
has
again.
consumed the land, and its inhabitants have become guilty, or is that
That could be.
only a few survive? I mean,
That could be, but I don't know. I mean, I'm under the impression it's the whole world, just because it mentioned earth and world together in verse 4, the world languishes. But let's look at it a little more. That's possible. I'm not saying that's ruled out. Verse 5, the earth is also defiled. Anyone have something different than defiled?
Verse 6.
Verse 5,
Oh, 5.
Isaiah 24:5.
It says mine says the earth is polluted by its inhabitants.
Right, that's good. The earth is polluted by its inhabitants. And there was another word in there too, like something God hates. It's, unclean, disgusting, defiled. Yeah, I guess defiled covers that. Under its inhabitants, what are inhabitants?
People who dwell.
Yeah, the people who dwell there, because they have transgressed the laws. And the question is that Chris brought up is what?
What law?
Yeah, what laws? Now, is it singular or plural? Plural, so it's not, well, I don't know. I was going to say it's not just the law of Moses, but you could say, well, there were 613 laws in the law of Moses, so I guess that logic doesn't work. Because they have transgressed the laws, plural, changed the ordinance, which is another, now that's singular, so a specific ordinance or law, broken the everlasting covenant. And look at Genesis 19:6, if I remember right. I didn't actually write it down like an idiot.
An idiot?
Yeah, fool.
Oh, I've never heard that term before.
Let's see, where were we? Everlasting covenant.
Genesis 19:6 says, Lot went out to the...
and shut the door behind him. That's it. That's the entire verse. That's the covenant. That's the covenant. Is that Lot went outside?
It probably has something to do with Sodom and Gomorrah.
That wasn't the rainbow section?
Nope.
Nope.
Chris.
19:6 is Lot leaving his house.
Maybe it's 6:19.
Oh, that would make a lot more sense. But
Okay, let me
this is the
see.
chapter of the flood.
Bear with us for a minute. And
6 is the continuing flood.
what verse are we in?
Yes.
9:16.
Oh, 9:16.
9:16. Okay.
Yeah, getting the correct chapter and verse helps.
I got all the numbers right, just in the wrong order.
The bow
Dyslexic.
will be in the clouds and will look, and I will look at it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and all living creatures on earth.
Keep going.
God said to Noah, "This is a sign of the covenant that I have confirmed between man and every creature on earth."
Or wait, no, I guess we need to back up a
Oh, to
little.
see what it is.
14,
14.
13.
13. I have placed my bow in the clouds, and it will be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Wherever I form clouds over the earth, and the bow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between you and all living creatures. Water will never again become a flood to destroy every creature. The bow will be in the clouds, and I will
Okay,
look at
that's
it.
good. And at the end of 12, it said for perpetual generations. So there's this, the rainbow is a sign of the covenant. Maybe it didn't rain before the flood, or this was a new setup God made, that the rain would and clouds would cause rainbows. But it's a sign of God's everlasting covenant, not just with man, but with all creatures, that he would never judge the world with a worldwide flood again. They're probably pretty insecure about that after the flood.
Yeah,
right?
you know, rain starts
But
happening.
right away, God gives them this promise of hope that it would never happen again. But this, and maybe this isn't the right interpretation, but it sure makes me think of, who has hijacked the rainbow symbol to make it, instead of something pure and holy, something vile and perverse.
The homosexuals.
Right. The sodomite movement. They've taken God's beautiful rainbow, put it on their flag, and then try and defile kids with terrible parades.
What's ironic is all the stripes on the flag are straight.
Oh, that's
Emma points out that the rainbow flag stripes are straight, but I'm sure if you looked, you might be able to find a curvy one, because I'm sure they've been told that. Yeah, it's a downward slippery slope.
You know, you go to bake them a cake. Do you want the lines straight on the cake?
Or is that offensive?
Right. So back to our Isaiah 24. It says they've broken God's laws and changed the ordinance. And there's. How can I do this without giving it all away? What are some things that are called ordinances? Like the
Commandments?
The Catholic Church has some important ordinances. One of them's Mass, and there's like a list of maybe 5, 10 of them.
Are there events you're supposed to...
Like major life events
I mean,
that help sanctify. Child baptism is one of them. Doing the Mass is one of them. Things you have to do to be a good Catholic. And
Getting married.
Yes,
probably.
getting married.
marriage, the ordinance of marriage. That one actually is ordained by God, and they've changed the ordinance, one particular ordinance of marriage, and hijacked the everlasting covenant.
Ordinance is also a type of explosive use.
Yeah,
I like
that's
ordinance.
another meaning.
It's
Not in this
changed
passage.
explosive.
though.
bomber craft carry heavy ordnance.
Right.
It's my favorite.
And as far as the laws go, I would say, I'm guessing this isn't the law of Moses. It's more like Romans 1, where it talks about, these. Well, we're talking back in Genesis. Genesis is pre-law or post-law? Or during law. Yeah, it's pre-law. But were there things that God expected of mankind in general during that time?
Yes.
What was that dispensation called? Well, some people just call it the pre-flood dispensation, which doesn't tell you a whole lot, but it's called the dispensation of human government, because God said, if you defile the land, or if you shed blood in the land, by man, his blood will be shed. In other words, he instituted human government and gave them the power of the death penalty. Said if someone commits murder, you can put him to death and purge the evil from among you. Stop the chain of violence. Fight fire with fire, I guess. And I think it's those types of laws that they, like the Gentiles, have a law written on their heart when they say certain things are wrong and do certain things that are right. It shows that they have a law. Well, let's look at Romans 1. We've got plenty of time. Acts in blue. And then Romans 1. Where should we start? Let's see. How about Chris, you want to read?
For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of man, who hold the truth in unrighteousness.
Or suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Go on.
Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them. For God hath shewed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. So basically, people know the general practices and morals and law based off creation.
Right. Since the creation, they've seen his invisible attributes, and they've had God put a conscience in people to know that certain things are right and wrong. That's why almost every society has laws against murder and rape and things like bad things. Let's keep going, please.
Alright.
It gets into the specifics.
Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened.
So one thing is that the laws that they've broken is they denied that God exists, even though all of creation cries out that. Verse 22.
Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. And changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanliness through the lusts of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the man, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another, man with man, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves the recompense of their error, which was meat. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind, to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents. That one's important.
31.
Without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only to do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them.
Okay, so those are the type of laws, these characteristics of God that were known from creation, from the beginning, are evident in people. Everyone knows these things, knows that some things are right and some things are wrong, and now they're calling evil good and good evil. And I wanted to mention, I heard an interesting theory on the land thing when with the curse, after Adam and Eve sinned, the curse was, Cain killed Abel, and his blood cried out from the land, and God cursed the land. See, the blood causes the land to be less and less productive, and the more they spread out and committed more murders, man did, the harder it was to get yield from the soil. But after the flood, God said he wouldn't curse the land because of murder anymore. How did he deal with murder? There's a dispensational change there. Instead of cursing the land every time murder happens and the land getting worse and worse, at some point, we probably wouldn't be able to grow crops at all. He says, now I'm going to have human government deal with murder with the death penalty. And that shows how corrupt most of or at least our government is now. They won't even do the death penalty anymore. There's someone who's been on death row, I heard in the news, for like 20 years. He's supposed to be put to death, but the drug companies won't sell the state of Texas the injection drug, and it's like Are you kidding me? Just take $20 to a street corner and you'll get enough methamphetamine to kill an elephant. It's not that hard. There's also firing squad and hanging, but they don't like that either.
I think they
It's
still
like
have an electric chair too.
25-cent bullet.
Yeah, but all those have other morals behind them that are reasons that they aren't used as covenant.
Well, they try and make everything sound like cruel and unusual punishment, and it's like, no, they're not torture. They're meant to be quick deaths.
I feel like a bullet to the head would be worse for a person observing the execution more than the actual person being executed.
Yeah, I feel like that's
It's-
actually.
Or
It's
the
not.
person who has to
It's
do the
it's
job.
not immoral to do the death penalty on someone who deserves it. That's immoral. It's immoral not to give a serial murderer or rapist the death penalty. That's what's immoral. But see, they're trying to call evil good and good evil. Purging the evil from among you, that's good. And see, when the government does quick discipline of evil, what does that cause?
You mean by
Like,
quick
does
discipline?
the-
You mean
Like someone gets the death penalty who deserves it after a fair and quick trial.
it causes? I would say law and order. Like
Yeah, it causes the other evildoers to fear. It makes, like, you see a public hanging in the square and you're like, maybe I shouldn't do what he did. Sorry, I'm not trying to point to you.
fun fact: Christopher Lee witnessed the last public execution in France
Via the guillotine.
via guillotine. So the guy who played Saruman.
Knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
All right. What verse were we on? Isaiah
like
24.
6 or 7.
Oh yeah, we were talking about how back in 5, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. We've seen how Romans 1 talks about that. We've seen the everlasting covenant of the rainbow and how that's been hijacked by those with vile passions. Therefore, the curse has devoured the earth. Remember, because of murder, blood on the land, Cain killing Abel, a curse has devoured the earth, and those who dwell in it are desolate. So it's like going way back and then way future, back to the beginning and then forward to the tribulation period. And those who dwell in it are desolate. Anyone have something other than desolate in middle of 6? And those
Desolately.
and those who dwell
Scorched.
It's consumed.
consumed. Okay, it's
Right.
I think ESV had a good translation of that one. The idea is they're punished. They're like destroyed for doing evil. It's kind of a big.
The inhabitants of the earth are scorched.
Okay.
ESV.
Guilty?
Yes, found guilty. That's good.
I burned.
Yeah, they're burned because they're guilty. So that's why I translated it as punished. I think punished is the idea. And we'll see it later in future verses here. And those who dwell in it are desolate. Why? Because they're guilty. They've been punished. Therefore, the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men are left. There's what's that called? When few are left.
Survivors.
What?
Survivors.
Survivors, yeah, a remnant. A remnant is what I'm looking for, but survivors works. 7. The new wine fails. The vine languishes. All the merry-hearted sigh. Remember what we said languishes means?
It's dying.
Yeah, dying. Weakens. weakens, or like in this case, wilts.
HCSB says carousers. That sounds like a southern thing.
Oh, instead
All the
of merry,
carousers groan.
okay, instead of merry-hearted. Yeah, the new wine fails. God's gonna make it so the land won't produce good wine anymore. The vine languishes. It's really hard to grow grapevines. They're not doing well. All the merry-hearted sigh because they can't get any more wine to party. The mirth or joy of the tambourine ceases. That's for, joyous parade, celebrating, that type of thing. The noise of the jubilant or the revelers, what's the definition of, I think it was revelry, is unrestrained merrymaking. Unrestrained merrymaking. The noise of the jubilant or revelers ends. The joy of the harp ceases. Does God want them celebrating when He's judging the whole earth? Okay, what does Peter say the first about the two judgments? The two worldwide judgments. He says the first one's by water and the second one's by
Fire.
Fire. Fire sandwiches.
You're fired.
That's what, was it Mercy that said that?
Yeah.
Or Hattie? Oh, Hattie, when she was little, we were at it camping, and she had the burnt marshmallow and graham crackers and chocolate, and I thought I had my video camera going, was interviewing her and saying, "What did you make there? What do you have there?" She says, "A sandwich." I said, "What kind of sandwich?" "A fire sandwich." I'm like, "Looks good." And it was so cute, and then I looked and it wasn't recording at all.
Oh. Adults call that flambe.
Sandwich a la flambe. No, wait, that did not be out loud.
Verse 9, they shall not drink wine with a song. Strong drink is bitter to those who drink it. So HCSB probably has something different. You have HCSB
Yeah.
instead of strong drink.
Yeah, it says here, they no longer sing and drink wine. Beer is bitter to those who drink it.
Beer. Yeah, beer. Actually, I think that is the better translation. This is one of those newer Hebrew discoveries from researching the language and finding, old manuscripts and stuff like that. If you're interested in Bible translation, which it does fascinate me, there's a free book you can get off Amazon. Well, I mean, it's like, what do you call that? A digital book. It's called HCSB Navigating the Horizons in Bible Translation. And I thought, oh, it's just going to be a big advertisement for the HCSB Bible, right? No, it was really good. It showed all these new advancements in the Bible translation process, new words they've learned more about, and why there's differences between the Old King James and like the new HCSB translation, stuff like that. It's really
What's it called?
good read. Well, if you just look up HCSB on Amazon, it'll come up. A book, not the Bible. Yeah, say it again.
HCSB Navigating the Horizons in Bible Translation by David K. Clendon.
Yep, got it.
That's
Got it
cool
in-
that they try to explain their reasoning behind different things.
Right, which is one reason so that none may go in. So, what city?
Jerusalem?
Yeah, maybe Jerusalem. That would lend credence to Chris's view here that maybe it's like with the laws, maybe it's earth might be talking about the land.
It could also be
Israel.
like sometimes you'll say like the city just being observed, like cities in general.
Yeah, and that's what some translators do, is take it as, there's the city of man versus the city of God, and so this would be the city of man but I don't know. I tend to lean towards Jerusalem.
My notes say that it could be Babylon.
Could be Babylon. Well, that could work as the city of man in the tribulation period, because that's the city that's going to be, I believe, the capital of the Antichrist and international.
Their souls for, such as on the earth. These passages in Isaiah help to prepare the way for the symbolic use of Babylon in the book of Revelation.
Prepare the way for what?
The use of Babylon in the book of Revelation.
No, what is that? Your study Bible?
Yeah, it's my study Bible.
Note there. Which one is that?
What city was? Oh, this is
NIV study Bible. Okay, thank you. Verse 10. The city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up so that none may go in. Why would the houses be shut up?
Because there's chaos.
Well, yeah, either they're scared and they're boarding up their windows to barricade themselves inside, or they've, like you can see a house on the street corner right there by the light. It's all boarded up, right? Why is it all boarded up?
Because no one lives there.
Yeah, because no one lives there and they don't want...
If it wasn't boarded up, someone would.
Yeah. Homeless people and animals going in and just stealing the pipes or whatever. So every house is shut up so that none may go in. 11. There is a cry for wine in the streets. Phoebe. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. Maybe Israel. Maybe it's gone back to Israel again with the city and the land. It's supposed to be a place of joy, rejoicing in their God, right? Having all these celebrations every year, 7 great feasts. Verse 12, in the city, desolation is left and the gate is stricken with destruction. What's the gate a symbol of? And sends them all running. Verse 13, when it shall be thus in the midst of the land among the people. So here, yeah, we're definitely getting back into Israel type language here. The land, the people, the city. In the midst of the land, it shall be like a shaking of an olive tree, like the gleaning of grapes when the vintage is done. What are those things talking about? What's going on there? Harvesting, exactly. It's talking about harvesting or gathering olives and grapes. What would the olives be gathered for?
Which is kind of an, like the harvest is kind of an end times metaphor that's used a lot.
Right, exactly. So what are olives usually harvested? Normal people, pizza lovers eat. Not weird things like squid and...
Olives are basically spider backsides.
Are not.
Oh, right. Well, I've opened up a can of worms here.
Or a can of olives.
Yeah, you'll catch some fish now.
A spared remnant rejoices, verse 14.
Now I have to try that, man.
They shall lift up their voice, they shall sing. For the majesty of Yahweh, they shall cry aloud from the sea.
Mine says they proclaim in the west.
Okay, we'll talk about that. That's Old King James?
No, this is HCSB.
Okay, I was going to say that.
So this is how it will be on the earth among the nations, is what it says in verse 13. I'm assuming that's who they're talking about.
Yeah, and there's a...
in the midst of, well, it could be the land or the earth among the people, singular. Well, I'm thinking they is the Jews. The Jews.
Does yours say for this is how it shall be on the earth among the nations? Yours
No,
says
mine
the
says,
people?
verse 13, when it shall be thus in the midst of the land among the people,
Okay.
it shall be like a shaking of an olive tree.
I guess that's one where you have to go back to the Greek and figure
Well,
out which find out which it's actually
the
singular
word can be
from.
translated land or earth for that one. And it says people, singular in mine. Anyone have something different?
I have nations.
Yeah.
Peoples. Oh, I hate that. When translations, one has singular and one has plural. Remember we had that few chapters back that I had to really
Yeah, there was
dig
one.
into.
And even with the
Looking it up.
looking it up, it like had bits of both.
Okay, well, if it's the people, that would be
That would be Israel.
Israel. If it's the peoples,
Should be the nation.
the nations are the Gentiles. And then scroll to the bottom of the page. Well, you just look at that verse and scroll to the bottom of the page, and we'll see if that tells us the Hebrew there. A spared remnant rejoices. Verse 14. They shall lift up their voice. They shall sing for the majesty of Yahweh. So these are people that worship God, which would make me lean towards the singular, the people, rather than, oh, the Gentiles tend not to worship Yahweh, especially during the tribulation period. It's mainly just a remnant of Jewish believers or Christians that are God is preserving. They shall cry aloud from the sea. Why would they be in the sea? What?
They're drowning.
Because they're swimming, because they're drowning. Because I think because they're fleeing from the Antichrist. Remember, he makes the land desolate. They're all running away. So they could run east, they could run north, they could run south, but if they run west, how do they have to run west?
Paddle.
By ship, yeah, by boat.
Is that
Okay.
kind of like probably not a good point, but is it like a reference to like possibly foreshadowing of Revelation 20?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
'Cause if I remember correctly, it goes like the death, and for like the final judgment, it says like the sea gave the dead that were in it, and death and Hades delivered up the dead that were in them, and they were each judged according to their works.
Right, that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is talking about
Oh,
that,
okay.
though. They shall, then it says, they shall cry aloud from the sea, which in the Hebrew word, it's, well, what sea? If it's not specified.
The Red Sea.
No,
Sea.
The Mediterranean.
Mediterranean, which is what direction from Jerusalem or Israel? West. Israel. So that's why the word for the sea, in other words, the Mediterranean, to Israel, in Hebrew, is equivalent to saying the west. So the context determines whether it's talking about the Mediterranean Sea or just a westerly direction toward plural, which would be peoples. And see,
And there it says.
haaretz. Yeah, that's
Feminine
earth
singular.
or land.
Oh, like Mother Earth or something.
Well, it's just earth or land.
Well,
it's like dirt.
It says feminine singular, and
Words can be
Okay.
feminine,
Yeah, well, in
whether
Hebrew they're feminine, but it's just the idea of
Haven't you ever
dirt.
studied Spanish?
But
Words
they're,
can be feminine,
they had no
feminine.
idea of this worshiping Mother Earth nonsense, well, at least among the Hebrew people.
I'm thinking I must have missed
Maybe the pagans did. Come on in, who's here?
No, I think that's just the rumble of a big truck that went by.
Oh, I thought I heard the door knocking.
Yeah, I heard that too, but I also saw
It-
Hannah lean over. I
It
thought she was
sounded
walking
like it
around.
came from there.
Oh, I just dropped my cup to the.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
All right,
what
they shall. So we got the sea and west figured out. Or, oh, and it did say people. It did say plural for the nations.
yeah, masculine.
So I assume peoples is the better translation there. I mean, there is a possibility that there's some text
Of course,
peoples.
could that also be referring to like because occasionally Israel has been referred to as like you have different tribes.
No, they're still called the people. I think it's just called tribes. I mean, almost every time Israel's called the people and the nations are called the Gentiles. You know, maybe there's one or two special context exceptions or something, but I almost never see anything like that, any variance from that. It's very consistent, like a technical term. 15. Therefore glorify Yahweh in the dawning light, the name of Yahweh God of Israel in the coastlands of the sea. So someone have something different than dawning light
In the east.
in the east.
In the islands of the west.
Right, and then the islands of the west. So we already talked about the sea, why sea or west, in the previous verse, and it's the same in this verse. But look at the beginning of 15. That seems like a significant textual or translation difference among translations, but it's really not. Go ahead.
Yeah, it might. It says, therefore in the east give glory to the Lord, but it also has in the subnotes, like,
Translator footnote.
in the realm of, the footnote, in the realm of light or with the fires.
Right, okay, so that Hebrew word means flame. Well, what flame comes up in the east?
The sun.
The sun, yes. So they use sea, Mediterranean Sea, for the west. That's west of Israel. And when the sun comes up, it comes up east. So the flame in the east. Flame of Uri, flame on!
Flame on.
Yep. Therefore glorify Yahweh in the dawning light, or the flame of the east. Okay, the name, and it does seem like this section is contrasting east and west, the directions. Therefore glorify the name of, and here's a synonymous parallelism. Therefore glorify Yahweh in the dawning light, the name of the Yahweh God of Israel in the coastlands of the sea. Actually, it's there's another name for this one. It's kind of a synonymous parallelism, but it's expanding on the idea. So it's saying worship him in the west of Israel, worship him in the east of Israel, worship him everywhere. Glorify him everywhere. Verse 16. From the ends of the earth we have heard songs, glory to the righteous. But I said, I am ruined, ruined, woe to me. Who's saying, who's I?
Isaiah?
Yeah, I think it's Isaiah, looking at all this destruction and empathizing as a fellow Jew and saying this.
So is he saying with that, from the ends of the earth we hear songs, the splendor of the righteous one, is he saying people are like singing songs of praise when they should be singing songs of woe? Or
I'm not sure. It could be during the tribulation, the Jewish saints praising God even though they're being hunted down and all this destruction is happening and their houses and land has been taken away from them. Or it could be jumping to the end of the tribulation when Christ returns and they really have reason for rejoicing because he rescues them from the armies of Antichrist at Armageddon. But I think Isaiah's a little confused himself. It says the prophets longed to look into these things. They wondered what these things meant, it says in the New Testament.
But I mean, we see how, like, a lot of these visions, sometimes these kinds of things kind of trouble the prophets because it's full of doom and gloom. Right,
we've seen Isaiah, yes, empathizing with the situation in many of these dire prophecies. And he's going to, it might be the idea of like, why the rejoicing, Lord? All I see is ruin and reason to woe, and woe is me, complain.
He says, actually, wait, hang on, we're on verse 16.
Yeah, we're in the middle of 16. We'll finish it. We need to finish it. The treacherous. Okay, I'll finish that, then you can read your note. The treacherous dealers have dealt treacherously. Indeed, the treacherous dealers have dealt very treacherously. So, are they loyal?
No.
No, they're treacherous, and I think this is pointing to the treachery of Antichrist. Him and probably the nations with him have guaranteed Israel's peace and security. But what does he do in the middle of the tribulation? Attack them. Get rid of your nukes, your weapons. No one can make war with me. I'll guarantee your peace and security. And then he turns on them. He defiles their temple, sets up his own image in that temple, and starts hunting the Jewish believers down. That's treachery. That's betrayal of a covenant. The covenant. That's what starts the tribulation period. the covenant between Israel and the many, when the Antichrist guarantees their peace and security. Go ahead.
It's saying he was, the question noted is, why did Isaiah feel betrayed? And it says, he was appalled at the immense human tragedy of the vision. After woe to me, Isaiah used a poetic device, 5 Hebrew words that sound quite similar in Hebrew, to underscore his complaint that everywhere he looked he saw treachery. Though many rejoiced about the coming victory of good over evil, Isaiah found himself engulfed in the misery caught by destruction.
Thank you. Just here's my pericope: distress of nations climaxed by God's judgments during the tribulation. Verse 17. Fear and the pit and the snare are upon you, O inhabitant of the earth or the land. And what do fear, pit, and snare all have in common? What's that talking about? A trap, yes.
A trap await you.
It's a trap. A trap.
And let's read about that. 18. And it shall be that he who flees from the noise of the fear, bombings or whatever's going on, explosions, meteors, shall fall into the pit. And he who comes up from the midst of the pit shall be caught in the snare. A loop, wire loop that grabs your ankle, pulls you up in the air. For the windows from on high are open, and the foundations of the earth are shaken. Well, what does that part sound like?
It hits the floodgates.
Yeah, it sounds like the flood of Noah's time, right? It talks about the windows, God opening the windows on high, and the fountains of the deep being opened up, and the earth being shaken. But this one isn't causing a worldwide flood. There might be some flooding, but it's not going to cause a worldwide flood. It's more a fiery judgment, like meteors coming down, volcanoes, nukes, whatever things God uses, including shaking the earth tremendously. And so that could be lava coming up. Is there anywhere to really be safe from a huge earthquake? Why not? Because it shakes everything. There's nowhere to hide. Hide under the table. The table's shaking. The ground's shaking. Everything's falling down. There's no safe place. And the bigger it is, the less earthquake buildings become, right? Man can only make buildings a little earthquake proof, not big earthquake proof.
Also, meteorites
And
and debris.
let me see, verse 19, the earth or land is violently broken, the earth is split open, the earth is shaken exceedingly. Small, short earthquake or big, long earthquake?
Long earthquake.
Long earthquake. Jesus talked about earthquakes like the world has never seen or ever will see again regarding the tribulation period in his little apocalypse. What part of Scripture would that be? Jesus' little apocalypse.
Jesus' little apocalypse?
Yes.
That was Mark 13.
What is apocalypse? Yes, it's Matthew 24. Exactly. It's like a mini revelation. That's why this is called Isaiah's little apocalypse. Not because it's his.
Not because the apocalypse is little.
Not because it's because it's short. Not because the apocalypse is small. And what does apocalypse mean?
Unveiling.
The unveiling. That's what Revelation. The book of Revelation in the Catholic Bible is called the Apocalypse. It means the Greek word means the unveiling. A is a negative, so that's the apocalypse, unveiling or uncovering, like a woman's head covering or a bride's veil. It's like, oh look, it's Leah, not Rachel. Little mistake or big mistake?
Well, I mean, got half of Israel.
Yeah, it made over half. Of
Well,
Israel
it was
that
still
way.
part of, I guess, God's providence or sovereign plan, but it wasn't Israel's.
Mistake on God's part.
It wasn't
a
Jacob's
mistake on
intent.
Jacob's part.
Yeah. It made him a slave a lot longer. But God was kind of punishing him for his conniving earlier. Now he's met a bigger conniver than himself, Uncle Laban, who really has tricked him quite well many times.
You really see what side of the family he gets it from.
Yeah. Verse 20, after that great earthquake, the earth, oh, it's still going. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall totter like a hut. Its transgression shall be heavy upon it. Blood has filled the land, and it will fall and not rise again. The earth is reeling to and fro like a drunkard. What's a drunkard like? Yeah, he waddles around like a penguin as if an earthquake is going on, but he's the only one experiencing his personal earthquake. No one else is waddling around and can't walk straight.
Being drunk, too.
Being drunk, the personal earthquake simulator.
Right. So that's what the earth is going to be like. Everyone is going to be like a drunkard, not because he's drunk. God has pretty much eliminated that possibility by ruining the wine. But he says everyone's going to experience this drunken shaking.
That's interesting. He's just like, no, you're going to be sober for this.
Right.
No escape.
What'd you say?
No escape.
No escape. And shall totter like a hut. You know, that's not, is a hut a stable building, a permanent building? No, it's like a tent. This is a temporary one, and it doesn't take much to knock it down. Its transgression, remember the children of Israel, what holiday do they make huts or tents to sleep in for?
Feast of Tabernacles.
Feast of Tabernacles. That's their camp out holiday. Its transgressions, we call it open front. Or Camp Dwight. But its transgression shall be heavy upon it, and it will fail. It will fall. I'm having trouble seeing that word, whether it's fail or fall, and not rise again. Maybe I have glasses. I need
double. My mom used to say wear 2 sets as she got older.
Yeah. Verse 21. It shall come. Yeah, let's wrap this up. It shall come to pass in that day, tribulation language, in that day that Yahweh will punish on high the host of exalted ones. I say how does God usually use the word host?
To describe angels.
Yes, angels. He's the Lord of hosts, the Yahweh of angelic armies. He's going to punish on high the host of exalted ones. Some translations say the host of heaven. The host of heaven. Obviously, angels. And why would he punish good, decent angels who help us out?
Well, he probably wouldn't. He's probably talking about demonic.
Right, he's talking about the fallen angels, not the elect angels. The ones who followed Satan in rebellion and pride. And on the earth, the kings of the earth. So he's contrasting. This is like, what's the opposite of synonymous parallelism? It's saying the opposites. You know, on heaven and on earth, it's contrasting. 22, they will be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit. And pit is oftentimes used, like in the Psalms, with what other word?
Sheol.
Sheol, yes, a bad place to go. Sheol, the dwelling place of the dead. Hell. Pit could be translated like hole, or they used it of wells. You know, like the prophet, I think it was Jeremiah, was thrown into a dry cistern or well. That's this word. And he almost died there because it was, you know, still moist and wasn't getting food or light or whatever. Just like in wars, a lot of guys died in the ditches from wet feet.
Trench foot.
Trench foot, yeah. They will be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and will be shut up in the prison. After many days, they will be punished. Can you find Jude 1:6 for me, please, Chris?
Sure.
After many days, they will be punished. Probably talking about, well, there was a time regarding the Genesis 6 angels that had babies with human women and produced giants, and that was part of the reason for the judgment upon the earth of the flood. But this is probably more likely referring to when Christ returns at the second coming, and will not just judge men, but also angels.
So, Jude chapter 6. Hey, Jude.
Jude 1, verse 6.
Yes.
There's only one chapter in Jude, I believe.
Yes. And he has kept with eternal chains in darkness for the judgment of the great day the angels who did not keep their own position, but deserted their proper dwelling.
They did not keep their first estate in heaven, but left their proper dwelling to seek vile passions on this earth, seek strange flesh, and the worst of them were put in prison in Tartarus until the day of judgment, when Christ returns. Verse 23. Then the moon will be disgraced, and the sun ashamed. What do you do when you're ashamed or disgraced?
You hide.
You hide, yes. They'll be dimmed, or they'll appear dim compared to something else. For the Yahweh of armies will reign, the glory of Jesus Christ on this earth, on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and before his elders, the Sanhedrin, the 70 elders of Israel, gloriously. His glory will outshine the sun and moon. And that will be awesome. And next chapter we'll get into the good news of the kingdom age when Christ's glory is shining from Jerusalem. 802, not bad. Yes, we'll close in prayer. One of the men want to close us in prayer? Okay, Chris.
Oh Lord, thank you so much for this time together, this wonderful study. Thank you for bringing us through Isaiah, Father. We hope and long for your imminent return, Lord, that it would come swiftly. And Father, what a day of glory that will be. I can't wait to be united with you and with all the people who we're waiting for, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, goodbye, Facebook friends. Isaiah 20.